Hey guys, welcome back to the second episode of the Mulligans and Milkshakes podcast, presented by, I guess you would say, Crimson Crossover, as we are Crimson Crossover. I'm joined, as always, by Matthew Travis and Charles Branch. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well. We have some masters to discuss. We have a good interview and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, we're definitely full swing into the golf season. All the signature events and the majors coming up. So very, very exciting time for golf fans, including that the weather's getting better. So more people should be able to get out and play some rounds now too.
Yeah, and we'll dive into maybe some weekend golf that some folks participated in, and obviously the first major of the year, the Masters, where he saw Scotty Scheffler win his second Masters in 2 years. We'll dive into that after the interview with PGA golfer Robby Shelton, former Alabama golfer. Um, Super thankful for Robby to be able to jump on here and just talk his golf game and maybe his experience at Alabama and on the PGA Tour thus far. So we'll get back right back with you guys after this interview.
We're pleased to be joined by former Alabama golfer and current PGA professional Robby Shelton on the podcast today. Robby, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be on.
No,
Appreciate you guys.
we appreciate you being our first official guest on the Mulligans and Milkshakes podcast. I should probably start it off and say, for please, Robby Shelton, step into the microphone.
Heck yeah, I'm excited. I'm honored to be the first.
How's your game right now? How's the season been for you?
It's been good. I've been making cuts. Just haven't really put the weekend rounds together. I'm 3 out of 4 rounds are solid, and I just have one round that's kind of getting away from me. So, if I can just capitalize on that and keep continuing, I mean, my swing feels good. I've been rolling it great. Just hit a few more fairways, and I think it'd be a great year.
Yeah, the last one you played in the Valero looks like you had a pretty solid tournament, but like you said, 3 out of the 4 and just couldn't put it together. How are you trying to build on that? I believe you said you were playing in the Zurich and have a couple other tournaments coming up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Valero, that's one of my favorites. I Saturday at Blue Hard shot 4 over, so um, moved out of the top. I think I was top 15 or so, but um, just moving forward, just having 2 weeks off is nice. I'm at home right now, and I've gotten to work on my game, which is tough to do on the road. So, um, just excited about the next 3 events. A team event to start it off is always fun, and I like that golf course as well. So, I'm very excited about the next 3 events.
If I remember correctly, Valero is where you currently have the shot of the PGA Tour year, I guess, with your Albatross. Is that right?
Oh, that was Valspar. That was down in
Valspar.
Tampa.
The V
Yeah,
tournament's got me confused. Tell us about
they.
that. Tell us about that shot and what that was like.
Oh man. Honestly, it was on Sunday, and I was 3 over going into. I guess that's 14. Yeah, it's 14. It's a par five. Um, I hit a good drive off the tee, and you can't really. It's really hard to go for that hole. In two, and I got one around the corner, and the second shot's very blind, and we picked a target on the grandstands behind the green, and I thought I hit a great shot, and I actually had to hit over some fans, and their reaction, it kind of I realized it went in, just by their reaction, and it was pretty cool because my caddy high fived me and everything. But after seeing the replay, um, it banged the stick pretty hard. I didn't realize it hit the pin that hard. Um, but it was 258. It was a hybrid, downwind off the right, and just got very lucky for it to hit the flag.
Shots like that, how do you kind of stay level-headed? And because we saw Bryson finished off on what was it, Friday or Saturday with the hole out from the middle of the fairway at Augusta, but how do you stay level-headed after making an albatross and kind of try and keep that momentum as you go the rest of the round, because you still had 5 holes to go after that shot?
Yeah, for sure. It was tough, honestly. I made that to get back to even, and I was pumped because I climbed back up in the top 20, and the next hole's a part 3, and like you said, it was tough to stay calm and take my deep breaths, but because the next hole I went flag hunting again, and it cost me. I short-sighted myself and made bogey, but I try to learn every single week, every single shot, so just got to learn from it, and just calm down, I guess, after a shot like that.
Would you say that that was your best shot or favorite shot of your career so far?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just to actually flush one, and it just go right where you want it to go. It's pretty cool because in golf, that never really happens.
So, you've obviously played a lot of PGA Tour events. What's your favorite course that you've played thus far? And maybe what's one that you haven't been able to play that you're really hoping to either this season or coming seasons?
I'd say my favorite. I love the Wells Fargo. I know it's elevated now, but that's one of my favorite courses. But I've just always wanted to play in the Masters. That's my goal, just to get into the Masters. Hopefully by next year. But that's the end goal for me, for sure.
You mentioned the Wells. Christian and I are both from Charlotte. I've played Quail a couple times myself. It's one of my favorite courses as well, and I'm looking forward to the the U.S. Open going back to Pinehurst, which will be pretty neat. Another one in North Carolina. But what does that do for you when you go to your favorite events? Like you mentioned, the Wells Fargo. You mentioned you like the Zurich every year, the team format. How does that maybe change your preparation going into a course that either fits your game more or that you just like in general?
Yeah, I think it's almost just like a calming thing. You're going to an event that you like, and the course fits you. So it's kind of just you free yourself up, I guess, a little bit. When I go to an event that I don't like, it's hard to get in the right mindset. I try to, but it's always, you know, just a little more difficult. So, yeah, just going to those events I like, just really it hones in on my ball striking really, and as long as I putt well, usually it's a good week.
So we talked about last week with the Masters, and obviously Ludwig, I think it's Aberg. I think that's how you say his name.
Something like that.
Something like that. I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not very good with pronunciation. I'm going to tell you that right now. So I try the best I can. But he finished his second at Augusta, his first time playing. My question to you is, for you specifically, like how many times do you have to play a course to be comfortable enough to say, like, okay, I understand this course? Like, could you go out to a course without knowing it, or an event without knowing it? Maybe not Augusta level, but just a course you haven't played before, and feel like you're comfortable enough with that course to be able to shoot well? Or do you have to play it in a couple of events? So like the Wells Fargo, would you have to play that 2 or 3 times to feel comfortable, or like is one tournament good enough for you?
I think one is fine, honestly. When you show up and you you kind of know the courses that fit your eyes. So when you show up, um, if it's a good one or not. But it all boils down to just how you're hitting it that week, or how you're swinging it basically. Um, Even if you love a course, you can't be scrapping it around. So um, yeah, I played with Ludwig at Torrey this year, and I think he finished ninth. I played with him on Sunday, but he was pretty impressive. He's definitely one of the better players out there, as you can see. But he was fun to watch.
And then Nick Dunlap, obviously from Alabama as well. He wins as an amateur out on the PGA Tour. What are your general thoughts about that? Obviously, being another Alabama guy, being able to just go out. But what type of preparation had, again, being from Alabama, has Coach Sewell and the other guys from the Alabama program really like instilled in you guys to be able to perform so successfully on PGA Tour?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you can see it through, Davis Riley, Wilson Furs out there, Lee Hodges, Trey Mullinax. You got me, you got Bud Colley, Nick Dunlap. So, there's a lot of studs coming out of Alabama, for sure. But I think I've known Nick for a few years. He plays a lot here at Greystone in Birmingham, and he has always been very mature for his age. He's always played with older people, older guys, and he's always been one of us, and you don't realize how young he is. So to see him come out and win was not very shocking, honestly. He just hits it too good and puts it good. But having been around, I guess the older guys and Coach Sewell and everything, it just made it that much easier for him. But he's an impressive kid, honestly. And I've seen him out there a few times. He's already had a couple more top tens, I think, and he's going to have a long career for sure.
Going off that, the practice rounds, do you play with any of the Alabama guys, or is there kind of maybe somewhat of a brotherhood or anything of that nature on the tour when you guys are playing the same events?
Yeah, we try to. It's kind of hard, Tuesday's kind of the only day we have to play with each other, and a lot of times it just doesn't work out. But we try to stick together. I play with Lee Hodges a good bit, and Davis Riley. I feel like those are the two guys I play with the most. But if it works out, we try to play together, and at least once a week.
And then the last question I have, and I will send it back to Charles, is again, we're Alabama grads ourselves, and this podcast is focused on Alabama, obviously with the emphasis on the PGA Tour as well. But Alabama's playing in the SEC championship or SEC tournament this week. I don't really know what you call it, SEC championship, SEC tournament. I'm not really sure. Go through your experience at Alabama, going through the SEC, going through NCAAs, with the different type of match play, stroke play that they have in both of these tournaments. How do you guys prepare, or how did you prepare for that? And then just overall, how was that entire experience just playing in the SEC for Alabama?
Yeah, it was the time of the year that we looked forward to. SECs for me was always, it's always at NC Island, Georgia, and it's for us it was a 4-day stroke play event. It changed, I guess, a couple years later to stroke and match, kind of like NCAA's. But for us, it was a 4-day stroke play event, and Coach Sewell would always take us down to Kiva Dunes and Gulf Shores, and we'd play a few rounds there as a team, just because it kind of mimicked the the Sea Island wind and a lot of water and stuff like that. So Coach Sewell did his part that way. He always made us prepare in the right way. So taking us down there the week before was huge, and just always loved going to Sea Island as well. Just to get to play on that golf course. There's a PGA Tour event there, so I was always excited to play that event. And my freshman year, I played really well. I think I finished third, but after that, you go straight to NCAA's, and it's a long week. You play a lot of golf, including practice rounds and 2 days of stroke, and then if you make it through, you have 2 or 3 days of match play. So it's a long week, and you just have to mentally prepare. But nothing really changes. You just have to get into it mentally, and just hope you get your competitor down early.
So I know your first victory on the Korn Ferry Tour is also accompanied by a great story of former Alabama running back Saron Stacy being there to support you. I was wondering if you could tell that story for us and for those who have never heard about that story from your first Korn Ferry Tour win.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Back in, I guess it was 2019. We're in Nashville, and I believe I had a 4-shot lead going into the final day. And just, I was nervous. I started out, I bogeyed my first 4 holes and lost the lead. And then I believe it was on 5 or 6, Duran Stacy shows up out of nowhere. I didn't really know he was there. I could feel his presence and kind of see him, from afar, but I didn't really know who he was, honestly. I knew of him, but just for him to show up was so odd. And after that rough start, he's very religious, and he was praying and, just doing everything. He was walking with my family, praying with them. And, we get to, I think he stayed for maybe 9 or 10 holes, but as soon as he got there, I don't know why, but I just started making birdies, and I think I got it back to even on the day. But I remember, just chipping in on 9 and looking over, and he's jumping up and down, screaming. It was just so funny because I didn't even know the guy, and he was over there with my family, just jumping up and down, screaming. And he did his part, praying for me and everything. And he just hugged everybody, said, "All right, I've done my part. I'll see you later." And that was, he left on like 13 or 14 or something like that. And, got it back to even for the day and went into the playoff with Scotty and got lucky enough to beat him. But yeah, it was a crazy first win because I've been in that situation before, and I think having him there, just feeling his presence, it really did help.
Yeah, I don't want to embellish the story at all, but I feel like I remember your family telling me too that whenever you got to where you were chipping on the 9th hole, Saran actually said he's about to chip it in, and then you go on and chip it in, and that was just awesome.
Yeah.
And you mentioned too, at the end, beating Scotty Scheffler in the playoff to win that tournament. Scotty obviously had a good week last week, winning the Masters again. What's that like for you as somebody who's competed against, and there's other guys that have come up through the Korn Ferry Tour too that are obviously on the PGA, but just giving you confidence that, look, you can beat these guys on any given day and any given tournament when they're also out there winning majors.
Yeah, for sure. I've known Scotty since, we've been playing junior golf together since we were probably 7 or 8. And my mom has, pictures of us together. Just, it's so funny. She sends them to me all the time and tells me, "You can beat this guy. You've been playing with him since you were 7 or 8." So, it's neat to see, to see one of your friends growing up, become #1 in the world and be this dominant. I know I can play with him. It's a matter of, just getting comfortable enough out there, and knowing I can, compete on a daily basis. I feel like I get my hot streaks, and, I play well at certain times, but just learning throughout the years, just learning how to be more consistent and, just try to stay up there with them, I guess, for a long time.
There was a story that I saw, I think either it was on Twitter or the PGA channel had something where on the Korn Ferry Tour, Scotty needed an up and down to I think get his status or something to the PGA Tour, or keep it within a certain range. I'm not entirely, I can't remember the exact story, but they were talking about how thin the line is as far as the PGA is concerned, about whether or not like you make it or you don't make it. How have you kind of experienced that? And I think for you, you've been kind of on the right side of the line, at least as far as staying within the PGA Tour. But how thin is that line just as a PGA Tour player? And maybe what has your experience been with that?
Yeah, it's there's so many golfers nowadays. It's so hard to to compete at such a high level with thousands of golfers that are really good. But yeah, Scotty, I think I saw that video where he chipped it, and he had to get up and down on the last hole to keep or to get Korn Ferry status. Just to have some events to get into. And you saw his reaction. He was fist pumping, and he was high fiving his caddy, because that's a big deal. I mean, that jump from just getting Korn Ferry starts, just really let you know that you have made it, and you can you can go after your dream. And but yeah, I've been, my first year out, I turned pro, and I missed Q school for Corn Ferry, so I had to go to Canada and play on the McKenzie tour for 3 months, and I played well up there and got some Corn Ferry starts, but it took me 2 years, to feel comfortable enough out there to play, to make it through and make it to the PGA Tour. But it's a fine line. I have so many buddies that are so good at golf, and they can beat me any day of the week, but they just haven't quite made it. And you've got to have people helping you, and just have a team, I guess. And that's the hardest part, is just to have people who believe in you, and just you believing in yourself to make it. But I think that the mental part is probably what separates a lot of the guys.
So obviously, I don't want to take one of Charles's questions, but obviously our podcast name is Mulligans and Milkshakes for obvious reasons, with the tradition from JC. Well, so that being said, what is your favorite milkshake flavor, and what is the tradition kind of blossomed into?
Gosh, I'd say cookies and cream. If they have it, that's my go-to. That was always fun. Coach Sewell was always you have to reward yourself after a great day, and even on the PGA Tour, he'll text me and say, "You won the day. Go get you a milkshake." So, it's cool to have that kind of mentality. You got to reward yourself at certain times.
I think that's a great way to wrap it up, and you definitely deserve a milkshake after having to deal with the three of us. But well, I can't tell you enough how much we appreciate you joining us and sharing your insights as far as your playing and just the different tours. We're all very excited for you. We'll be cheering you on at the Zurich and other events the rest of this year, and hopefully getting you back on after a championship or two at some point this year as well. So best of luck to you, and really appreciate your time, Robby.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
We want to thank Robby for joining us, and good luck to him at the Zurich Championship in a couple of weeks. Let's get into the news of the week, I guess is what you would call it. The Master Championship, the first major of the year. Obviously, again, I think we said it already. Scotty Scheffler wins his second green jacket in 3 years. But I think the best place for us to start is the Alabama golfers, which for those of you who keep track of our Twitter account and where we post daily updates, none of the three golfers that we had in our fantasy lineups for Alabama ended up making the cut. Notably, I think the biggest story out of all of it is Matthew Travis's golfer, Justin Thomas, who unfortunately went from even par to +7 in the matter of 4 holes. Matthew, what are your thoughts on your golfer, Justin Thomas?
I mean, thankfully, none of us got negative points for our 3 Alabama golfers missing the cut, so it didn't negatively impact us. But I mean, that was just no offense to Justin, but that was a meltdown of historic proportions. I mean, he birdied 13 and then was even going into 15 and then finished 7 over. I hadn't seen anything like that. I thought maybe he has a chance to get to the top 20, get me some double points in a signature event, and it went the exact opposite way and didn't get any. But just, I mean, I haven't seen anything like that. Just nothing was going his way, and then it seemed like it just unraveled, and he was just couldn't get out of his own head. And he makes one of those putts. He hits one of those one approach shot a little bit better, and he was 1 off the cut line. All 3 Alabama golfers were 1 off the cut line, but to go from even to 7 over in a stretch of 4 holes after birdieing 2 holes earlier is just, that's never gonna be any good for you. And it just completely killed his weekend after a decent round on Thursday, and then it just all unraveled from 15 to 18 on Friday.
And I mean, he was playing well before that. Like, I don't know what switch flipped. I know I think he went in the water on 15, and then it kind of just derailed from there. He went in the water on 15, and I think he went in the water on 16 as well, like back-to-back water balls. And after that, it just derailed. And then I remember on 18, because I was watching, I was like, man, I really hope he makes the cut. He shanked a ball directly into the woods, and I'm like, what is happening right now?
He just wanted to get out of there at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Charles, what were your thoughts on your Alabama golfer Nick Dunlap, who playing in his first Masters, and we were talking a little bit before the podcast, like, yes, he finished 7 over through 2 days, but I personally don't think that, I know while Justin finished 7 over, that's not the same thing as Nick Dunlap finishing 7 over. What are your thoughts on Nick's Nick's 2 rounds in the Masters?
Nick was 10 over with 11 holes to play in his second round. And so him, I think, battling back to get to 7 over. And it's a long putt, but he had a putt for birdie on 18. He did doubled 7 to put him at 10 over. And I know 7 was the toughest hole on Friday, but immediately follows up with 2 birdies, birdie on the par 5 8th, but then also getting a birdie on the par 4 9th, and just trying to fight his way back. And I thought he was pretty good from tee to green. It was just, his short game, which your first time playing at the Masters, that's probably going to get you at times. It's just not, fully understanding those greens and, where to put balls when you chip it, and, where to miss putts and things like that. I was very nervous for him once he had hit 10 over that this might spiral out of control. But the way that he fought back, at the end of the day, I was really impressed. I think they should have suspended the cut rules and moved it to +7. So all 3 of these guys should have made it. I mean, obviously for Alabama purposes. But with the year that he's had, and just, you're playing with John Rahm, the former Masters winner too. So, and I believe Matthew Fitzpatrick was also in their group as well. So you've got a lot of people that are watching you, and Rahm didn't play great, either during the tournament. So I think stuff like that, for a young golfer, there's so much to learn from it. That's just going to continue to prepare him for future majors and for moments like that. So he definitely, while he also missed the cut, like you said, his missing the cut is vastly different than how Justin missed the cut. And just to talk about Justin real quick, there's got to be a little concern, each year's a new year, but even last year when he missed the cut, and last year was incredibly difficult circumstances with all the rain, but this is back-to-back years where you've missed the cut, and you've missed it kind of collapsing towards the end. I understand kind of falling apart 2 years ago, with all the weather and rain and how cold it was, and in some instances this year where how the wind was playing such a factor those first 2 days. But now you've got it in your head of just falling apart when you really needed to put it together just to make the cut, is hopefully something that he can bounce back in future Masters, because we know he will continue to be playing in that event for years to come. He's just too good of a golfer, and is obviously, one of the top golfers, in the world. So he's going to continue to play himself into that event for the future, and, want to see him on Saturdays and Sundays, and one day ultimately, hopefully, wearing a green jacket out on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it there. I thought it was awesome that it's his first Masters, and here he is playing with the reigning Masters champion. I thought a couple years ago, before they moved the PGA Championship to May, when it was in August, they used to have the 3 major champions playing in the same group, and I thought that was awesome. But obviously now that it's the second major and it's gone away, it kind of prevents opportunities, and not only the PGA Championship, but other majors where, like, we saw Neil Shipley from Ohio State playing with Tiger Woods, and there was a whole thing with the note that we can get into if you guys want. But like stuff like that, it's just an opportunity to learn and kind of pick up on what they're doing. And I think stuff like that is really this entire year, but especially in the 4 majors, since Nick is going to be playing in all 4 majors this year and the next couple years as well. stuff like that, getting to learn from someone who's won there. Obviously now he's with Liv, so it's a little different, but he's won just about everywhere you can on the PGA Tour. Getting to learn from someone like that is so invaluable, and I think like experiences like that. And Nick's what, 20 years old, so he still has plenty of time to learn, and as he gets more majors, more PGA tournaments under his belt, we'll see him improve. But missing the cut by one in your first, he that was his first major start.
Yeah.
So missing the cut by one in your first major start is nothing to at Augusta, nonetheless, is nothing to hang your head about. And he had his moments, but he also had his moments of learning and needing to bring that into future events, future majors, future masters. So by no means a bad tournament for Nick, as opposed to Justin, who we're looking at obviously in a somewhat of a different light, even though they finished with the same 2-round score.
Yeah, and I want to say for Nick, well, first of all, I have a question. So did Shipley get in because Nick turned pro?
Yes,
Which
I believe
that's just,
so.
that's just crazy, like circumstance to like, oh, the guy that beat me in the USAM, So Shipley gets to play in all the three majors. So he gets to play the Open, the US, and the Masters.
I can look it up for you, but I believe that's the case.
Because that's
Obviously
what
not
Nick was
PGA
gonna.
because there are
That's
no
what Nick was
amps.
gonna.
Um,
Nick was gonna be in the Open, the US, and the Masters because he was the US amateur.
Shipley qualified for the Masters by placing second. So yeah.
Yeah.
His earned him a spot in the US Open, and I'm not sure about the Open, but yeah, he'll play in the US Open.
Because technically Nick isn't qualified yet for the US Open. Or not the US Open,
Yeah.
the Open in Europe.
Yeah.
Because he's qualified for the PGA, but not the Open. That was the whole.
Yeah, because he won. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the light that you look at those two guys is just it's vastly different. For a guy that was supposed to be the amateur coming in, and he's probably playing in this is his 5th or 6th, PGA event so far. To come in and again, you saw it with Ludwig who finished second. Sorry, who finished second. Where some of his shots he just didn't place them well, and they rolled off the green, and I think some of that has to do with experience, and I think Nick kind of got part of that. And then the wind was just killer. I mean, it was like 35-mile-an-hour winds. It's just but then the last golfer, which was my golfer, which was Lee Hodges, finished 2 over after the first round, and I was like, okay, like that's fine. Comes out in the first like 5 or 6 holes, gets it back to even, and I'm like, okay, like this is gonna be good, and then proceeds to bogey 6 of the next 11 holes. Birdie 17, then pars 18. If he birdies 18, then he makes the cut probably. But I feel like Lee's kind of the middle of JT and Dunlap, where Lee's played golf, he's won tournament. He's played in like I think it was like 12 events or something like that. Like it's not like he's not experienced or whatever, but you kind of hope that he makes the cut. But like we said, I think before the podcast, is if Lee makes the cut, that's a win for Lee, right? Like that's like, okay, I made the
Augusta.
cut.
Yeah
At Augusta. In other events, yeah, you want him to place top 20, top 15 or whatever, but at like a place like Augusta, that's just so difficult, especially with the wind conditions and how dried out it got after Thursday. Like just getting to the cut would have been a great week for him. Obviously that doesn't happen. And not too upset. But I just can't. I like still think about that Justin Thomas meltdown. It's like you fire Bone or not Bones. You mutually part ways with Bones. You've been working on your putting. You've been doing all of this, and it just seems like his game is getting progressively worse.
That was
Um,
something you mentioned Bones there. That was something I was thinking about when he was melting down. If you have a caddy you're comfortable with, say Bones or whoever else it might be, he just looked like he wanted to get off the course and he just started to unravel. If you have Bones or a caddy that you're comfortable with, they can try and reel you back in. And like we talked about, he was one shot off the cut. And if you have a caddy that you're comfortable with, it might help you get that shot back, get within that cut line. And we talked about it last week of how important the caddies are. And we heard Robby there talk about the what experience does for you going to courses you like. And I think that was kind of just the case with Lee and a little with Nick too, but especially Lee of it's his first Masters. It's really just getting experience because he'll be in it next year. He'll be in it the following year as well. This year was more so for Lee, just getting experience and applying that to next year where this was kind of his first go around at the course at obviously at the Masters. But I mean, you mentioned there Thursday, the cut line was 1 over. The 50 and ties were 1 over, and all of a sudden after Friday with how ridiculous the wind was and everything of that nature, and the course obviously firmed out a little bit after the rain on Thursday morning. It went to 6 over, which I mean that happens. Nobody there was what 1 round in the 60s on Friday. So for Lee, I think it was more so like I said, just using it as experience. But I just wanted to chime in because I really do think if Bones was there, he wouldn't have. He had what 3 doubles in the last four holes. I think that would have helped him to reel back in, calm down, and try and focus on the next shot as opposed to I hit it in the water there and just start to unravel like I'm sure all three of us do.
How about Tommy Fleetwood's caddy, the local? You know, he gets all the way to finishing third. You know, like you said, having a caddy that knows that course can be a huge benefit. The one comment that I came away that made me feel so relatable to a PGA golfer for the first time was I was watching the Thursday evening round, Homa, Woods. I'm trying to remember who else was in their threesome. They were on hole 11, you know, starting amen corner. I think Homa's about to hit his approach shot. And I can't remember what commentator it was said, you know, if you hit the green here, it's by accident. And it's like that I can play PGA Tour golf. If I hit the green, it's an accident. So, you know, look out.
I texted this in the group chat, but I want to pat all three of us on the back because we know ball. We talked about Ludwig last week. He placed second in his first Masters. My guy was Tommy Fleetwood as the underdog. He placed third, and I said minus 12 was going to win it, and it was minus 11. So I think after week one, we got the stamp. We know ball.
well, and I picked Scotty. You forgot about that.
And well, I mean, you and everyone else in the world, you just benefited from having the technically the 1-1 in the second round.
Yeah. I like I said, there was no way I couldn't pick Scotty. But even though I will say, I almost picked Ludwig because I really did believe. Like I was like, man, I really think that he could do something because he's had a good season this year. And man, credit to him. And then Homa, Max Homa, man, I love Scotty, but I really wanted Homa to get it, and
I love Max. He's the best.
He's just one of those guys. He's like a guy. Like he's not like this, you know. I don't really know how you would phrase it, but like not like he's above. Not saying that any golfer's like snooty or whatever, but like sometimes you put people on a pedestal, but like Homa just feels like this relatable guy that like you can just, you know, go to a bar, you know, chill out. Or yeah, if you guys ever follow his Twitter account, he always blames his wife for everything.
Yeah, and this week his wife isn't with him, and he said he went up on his drive to Hilton Head. He stopped at Chick-fil-A, and someone bought his Chick-fil-A because they were a fan. But he was like, when I got there, I typically don't eat pizza, but my wife isn't here, so he said screw it. So he got a whole pizza for himself. But Max is just hilarious, and he said he hadn't drank alcohol in a while, and he saved it all for Sunday night. And he was like, well, I was hoping it would be happy, but we'll take it.
You know, one of the things about the final leaderboard that kind of struck out to me is how many guys that we just saw in the Ryder Cup this fall too. You know, it was obviously a lot of United States guys with Scheffler and Homa and Schauffele and Colin Morikawa. But you got to think that definitely played into how Oberg played so well too, of just being on that stage and being comfortable and all that. That was something that just struck me. And then if I think going back to the 2021 Ryder Cup, that's kind of, I feel like when Scotty Scheffler really started coming on the scene, and you saw how he was able to parlay that into the success he had in 2022 when he won the Masters for the first time. So that, again, something that really stuck out to me as far as how many Ryder Cup guys were in contention and playing really, really well down the stretch on Sunday.
Yeah, Højgaard fell off on Sunday, but he was right there for a while too. But going off Scotty, I mean, we heard Robby talking about it there in the Corn Ferry Tour, battling it out against Scotty just a couple years ago, and now here Scotty is, what, 3-4 years later, and he has 2 green jackets, and people are talking about him as the most dominant golfer since prime Tiger Woods, and for good reason. Now that he has a mallet in his hand and knows how to putt, I just don't know. We'll get into the RBC in a minute, but I just don't know how, if he's playing even B-, C+ golf, I don't know how you can beat Scotty.
I came away so impressed with Scotty this week because, one, it's the Masters. So, it's a very tough course, as we all know, and you got to know your spots to hit. So the mental game going into the Masters. Then you add in the conditions, the wind that was there for the first 2 gates, how dry it was on Saturday, where the green just wasn't receptive to approach shots or really any shots. Everything seemed to be rolling through. And then just the whole narrative of, it's not that he and his wife are having a kid. It's their first kid, so you're out there doing all this and you got that in the back of your mind. You can say, yeah, these guys are machines and they can put that away. I don't know, having your first kid and knowing that anytime you can be called off the golf course to go home and see the birth of your child, I'm sure that was in the back of his mind as well. So to have all of that going on, very tough conditions, things going on outside of the golf course, I just came away super impressed with this Masters win for him. And, maybe don't have the history as some of a lot of the golf pundits out there, but just thinking about all the factors out, how impressive this win was for any, Masters golfer or any Masters champion that would have had to go through all these things this week.
I don't want to keep stepping on your toes, Christian, but I do have a question. We didn't talk about it last week because we recorded on Monday and it started to come out after. If you're leading Sunday at the Masters, green jacket, $3.6 million on the line, Charles, you have 2 kids. Are you leaving for the birth of your first child?
I would say it depends on what hole you're on. I mean, and again, too, like, he's won one, but you can hear Scotty in his press conferences. Like, he loves his wife, good husband. And I think having a family for them, like, is a big deal. So that's me not having inside knowledge or having a personal relationship with Scotty Scheffler. I know for the birth of, our first son, that was something that I was going to be there, no matter what.
But Charles, it's the Masters.
It is the Masters, but, family's important. I talk about, family and stuff like that with Alabama basketball all the time. I think it was if you're in that situation, you get into Sunday, like, if you're on hole 14, 15, you go ahead and finish it out, and there's probably some trust factor in that too, with your team around you, that you get that phone call and you're playing Sunday at the Masters and they don't tell you. A whole lot of different variables in it. I'm going to make the right call on this and say, with knowing that I will never be leading on a Sunday at the Masters with another kid on the way, that, yeah, I'll pull out and go home.
So your wife is watching this as one of
I was going to say your wife's watching. That's why you're saying that. Well, fortunately, my wife doesn't watch. And Matthew, you took my question. I was going to ask that. I was going to ask a little bit differently. I was going to ask, at what hole is the deadline? Because we were talking about it in a group chat. And it really depends on a couple of different things for me personally. One, well, first of all, I'm like a 30-minute flight away from Augusta in theory. So if I'm a professional golfer, like, 30 minutes away because Augusta's only like 2.5 hours from where I live. But if I've never won a Masters before, right? And I want you guys to think about it from this point of view. Not Scotty's situation where he's won a Masters. If you've never won a Masters before, and just the implications of that, which is you essentially become a member of Augusta, you get to play the Masters the rest of your life. You know, you get what is it, like a 3 or 4 year exemption for all the other, like you get $3.6 million. So like, let's say you're Nick Dunlap and Nick Dunlap's expecting a kid.
Yeah.
Right. Like think of it like that. And you're on Sunday, you have a 3-shot lead. At what point in your round is it go time to leave and go time to stay?
Here's my thing. The kid would grow up and be like, "Dad, what the heck? Why did you leave the mat?" I would, if I won, I would put the $3.6 million in a trust fund. That's all theirs when they grow up. Sorry, I wasn't there for your birth. He's not going to remember, but he's going to remember his dad was a Masters champion for the rest of his life. I'm playing the golf.
On the same point, your wife would also remember that
she would also remember that my son or daughter now has $3.6 million in a trust fund, which I miss their birth for. I think it'll all be okay.
Yeah, it just depends, obviously, on the type of relationship, and not to get into marriage counseling or marriage relationships. But I mean, you can just kind of tell, even the first time that he won, and just, you know, some of the interviews that they've done together, and I think just how Scotty lives his life, that was something that is important to him and that he wants to be a part of. And that's probably why, you know, at the end of the day, that he's playing in the RBC, when that call comes in, he's going to get called off the course, and he's going to get out of there as fast as he can and get home.
Yeah, and it wasn't like supposed to be like a marriage thing. Like,
no, it wasn't. I know.
It's so interesting because like we're all three in like different stages as far as like relationships are concerned. Charles, obviously you have kids, you know, I'm married, we don't have kids. You know, Matthew, you're dating your lovely girlfriend. So like it's different stages. And so like Charles, you're probably on the side of I'm not missing the marriage, or I'm not missing the birth. Matthew, you're on the side of I'm not missing the golf. Me, I'm literally torn where I'm like, I think it would be for me 14 holes. If I'm on the 14th hole with the 3-shot lead, I'm not leaving. I'm
telling you what though, if you have he had what, a 2-stroke lead after 8. If you're what, Tim Scott is his caddy's name. If Tim Scott tells you on 8, hey, she's going into labor, tell her to hold on. I got 10 more holes, $3.6 million on the way, and I'll be there. I mean, like before the round, I can understand it, but I think once the round starts, you have to be in the mindset of nothing else is going to stop me. I have to win this golf tournament. And how weird would that have been if he does leave? Now Colin Morikawa is just playing by himself in the final group at the Masters. That would have been the wildest, because we've obviously seen people play by themselves. What was it? Wesley Bryan set the record for the quickest round ever a couple years ago. He was literally running, and they didn't have the TV cameras set up on the back nine because they didn't expect anyone to be there an hour after he teed off. But that would have been something that obviously didn't happen. But someone in the final group by themselves would have been the wildest sight ever.
I wonder too, you know, obviously a discussion they would have had, but maybe it is, you're not necessarily getting called off the golf course. You may get called out of the tournament, but as soon as you start that round, because I think if you get that call when you're on the 8th hole, like your mental game is done from that point. You're
it's
not
true.
going to be able to focus on the golf like you need to be. So it may have been a situation where for them it was, yeah, we're going to take this day by day. And if I get that call, maybe in the early rounds, like you do have it where, hey, you're on a hole and okay, I'm pulling out, I'm headed home. If you're in contention like he was and obviously won, you know, and you're in the 3rd round or 4th round, maybe that goes from I'm getting that call on a hole to I'm getting that call either before the round or after the round and figuring it out from there.
Sam Burns was in the same situation. I think it's different for Sam Burns if he's leading. He's never won a major. So Sam Burns, I think, is it different for him since Scotty's already won it? Does Sam Burns stay? I don't know, because I think because Scotty said he was gone, I think Sam felt a little pressure to be like, oh, I have to
I
do
have
the
to say,
same.
yeah.
But obviously for him, it didn't matter. He was not 8 over on day one, but just it would have been a wild visual if hole 8, Scotty Scheffler is a 3. I think it was 2 or 3 strokes. I think it was 3 after 11 because that's when or Max hit it into the bush on 12, something like that. But I just can't picture in my mind Scotty Scheffler walking off the golf course with a 3-stroke lead on Sunday at Augusta. I just can't see it.
And you have to, that's under the assumption that his team is going to tell him that his wife's in labor, right?
I think,
But
yeah, I think it was a joint agreement that he would have been pretty pissed if they didn't tell him.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's get to the RBC. That's what is this? The third signature event, not including the major or the Masters of the year. An event that yet again we have 3 Alabama golfers. Which is there a cut on this one this week or no?
For signature events, there's not, right?
No, I think only on the majors is there. So we're automatically not, or automatically, I think, getting points for cuts, right? Do we get points for cuts for?
You don't get points for cuts. You get 5 points for top 20. So,
Okay.
But I mean, shortened field, so you have a better chance of it. And because it's a signature event, we also get the 10-point bonus, which you got which we all got, but you benefited the most of with Scotty winning last week.
Yeah.
Nobody's losing points in any scenario this week.
Well, we could if the 4 golfers that we have. No, they don't miss the cut.
Yeah,
no, you're right.
They don't
You're
miss
right,
a cut.
right,
So
right.
if there's no cut, there's no possibility of negative points. You just can't. There's a possibility of just not getting points.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which my only golfer that got cut was JT, who I was forced to take one of an Alabama golfer ended up getting cut. So I'm gonna pat myself on the back there. I didn't pick a golfer by choice that got cut. So I'm the only one who can say that.
I can't believe that Rom and Hideki played so poor. Like
Hideki shocked me.
Yeah.
Rom, I think I would attribute Rom truthfully to Liv and just kind of the different schedule. The Wyndham Clark comment was wild. The 54 holes and Bryson melting down, and then Wyndham didn't even make the cut. But
yeah.
I think Rom was more Liv and not being in like the best shape golf game wise as he was last year. And because last year, him and Scotty, it felt like what they just alternated wins every single week. But
Yeah.
I truthfully, I think Liv, they're not playing really as difficult of courses as the PGA is, and they're only playing 54 and obviously a different field where they're not getting cut. So I would kind of attribute that to Liv, and I think Brooks Koepka was the same. Last year, Liv came out firing on all cylinders, and this year it didn't, other than Bryson, who obviously fell apart on Sunday after 54 holes, that he just kind of fell apart, but didn't really feel like any Liv guys were really in contention down the stretch. Terrell Hatton had a decent tournament, but
Rom's problem is that he was on my team, because as much as I tried to put out good vibes only, when Sepp had the hole-in-one on the par 3 and then Ricky Fowler won the par 3 and Rom being the previous winner, you just knew I was done for before it even started.
Yeah, I think I had Koepka, I had Hideki, and then Scotty and Lee, and then there was one more.
You had Lee, Scotty, Dustin Johnson, who was horrible, Victor Hovland, and Hideki.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I thought Dustin always plays the Masters well. Always.
I picked him in my Masters pool too, and he just I think he was 13 over.
Yeah. Yeah, he always played, and I was like, man, I'm gonna pick the guys that are always good at the Masters. I'm just gonna go with that. And then Hovland was I was between Oberg and Hovland for my like toss up pick, and I was like, oh, Hovland's been playing well, but man, And
Hey,
it just
Christian, right now you and I are not in danger of eating a pimento cheese sandwich, so we're okay there. So that's
Uh,
really the only win that matters.
That's right.
let's go to the RBC though. That's in Hilton Head Island. I've been to Hilton Head quite a few times, never played the course. But Matthew, you have a little bit more experience with Hilton Head with your parents building a house there. What do you got for us for
Yeah,
the
my parents
RBC?
are moving out there. I've played a couple courses in Hilton Head. I've been to the course. I haven't played it, but I've been to the course, been to the what's it called? The tower.
Lighthouse? Yeah, the lighthouse.
Lighthouse.
Yeah.
Yes. I forgot the word lighthouse existed for a second there. Pardon me. But it's a beautiful course. I mean, last year it was a great tournament, and I think we're in line for another one. Maybe Scotty's wife will go into labor on Saturday, and we'll have a good finish down the stretch. But I'm hoping Rory can figure something out. It really looked like Xander Schauffele figured something out going into Sunday last week, so I think he's someone to look out for. But I mean, I'm just mentioning favorites for the most part, but Tommy Fleetwood, he was my underdog to look at last week, and I think he's another guy to keep an eye on this week. I think he really figured something out and can keep it going. I would love to see Colin Morikawa get back in the winner's circle and kind of get something going. Another American who obviously has success at the highest level, was on the Ryder Cup team, has won 2 majors, and this, that, and the other thing was in contention really until, I mean, he was in the final group Sunday, but kind of similar to Bryson, he kind of just fell off. I would love for Colin Morikawa to figure something out. I don't know if Max is going to have his best week. I think he's going to have somewhat of a Masters hangover after last week, his best major finish of his career. So I don't know if he's going to be as good, but Sahith Theegala is someone would be my sleeper pick. I mean, it's kind of hard to pick a sleeper per se in a signature event because all the best golfers in the world, minus the live guys, are in these signature events. So everyone's kind of a name to keep an eye on. But those are the guys that I really have my eye on. I don't know if Rory's. I don't know what's going on with Rory. He's one of the top favorites, but I mean, he was not good last week. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Rory. I would love to see him do something, but I don't know if it's going to be this week.
Yeah, I think what the issue with Rory is while the year that Liv came out, he played his best golf ever. The moment he started taking a ton of responsibility for like the PGA Tour, getting on the board of directors, all of these things, getting the TGL, is the moment his game started turning downhill because he's not focused. Not saying that Rory isn't focusing on golf, but if you watched Full Swing this year, I think they had a Rory episode, or
Yeah, he was
at
at
least
Puttery in Charlotte.
yeah, and they literally, he was like, I don't even really have time to even practice golf much anymore. He's like, I'm doing interviews, I'm doing shoots, I'm doing meetings, all of these things. It's just, and I think that's the issue is, he's just so focused on everything but golf where it's hurting his game. And so trying to get back to that is kind of where he needs to be. So, Charles, do you have any thoughts on the RBC?
I'm afraid to say anything because I need some points right now. So I'm not letting y'all take any of my picks here in the next few minutes.
Okay. Well, then let's get into picks. I think Matthew, you're up first as far as
I
fantasy picks.
am. So I'm gonna go. Well, Bama
Bama pick
golfers first. We
yeah.
have for those who are tuning in for the first time, 5 rounds. We'll put the points on the screen now. Same thing. It's on our Twitter, our Instagram as well, so you can look there. 5 rounds. There are 3 Alabama golfers this week, same as last week. So the first round is all Alabama guys. Charles had the first pick last week. I had the second. Christian had the third. So now everyone moves up one. Charles moves to the back. So the order this week is me, Christian, Charles, and then it's a snake draft. So then Charles will have the first pick of the second round and so on. So that being said, I have to pick a Bama guy. I mean, the obvious choice is Justin Thomas, so I'll go JT. Hopefully he can figure something out and maybe get me some double points plus 10 for a signature event.
I just want to say being the last pick is the best pick.
Yeah, you get Scotty Scheffler.
You get the first pick.
Unless his wife goes into labor.
Yeah, so that is something to keep in mind if you're making picks.
So
I
don't
gotta
let him slip to me.
I gotta go to Nick Dunlap. I almost want to pick Lee, but I love Lee Hodges. I think he's a great golfer. I think that Nick's gonna put it together this week.
Nick's
He's had
talking to Jonathan Grizz, trying to get the Grizz is from Hilton Head. He's trying to get all the pointers.
Yeah, I gotta go. I gotta go Nick with this one, and hopefully he pulls it off, or at least gets a top 20. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
Look, I got no problems having Lee Hodges, especially since we had Robbie on earlier, and they play a lot of practice rounds together when they're typically at the same tournament. So I'm more than happy to roll with Lee Hodges this weekend at the RBC. And so for my next pick, I'm gonna go with Patrick Cantlay. He's had 5 top 10s of the last 6 times he's played at the RBC. So I like going with Patrick Cantlay this week.
I already wrote Scotty Scheffler in for you. I had to delete it.
I know look, I'm gonna play I'm not going to, y'all are more than happy to take Scotty. I'm not going to take that risk because, as I said, I need points. So I'm going to go with Patrick Cantlay is going to be my first selection.
What do we do with withdrawals?
Is it same as cut, or is it just DNF?
Yeah, I think with the tournament that does not have a cut, shouldn't have to penalize. So just big old goose egg.
Well, should we go with that throughout, no penalty, or
Maybe, because if people get
if it's
people
before
get hurt,
Thursday, you can slide someone else in who wasn't drafted.
Yeah.
But you want to just do no penalty?
That'll work.
yeah, that's what I would do.
Okay.
It is mulligans and milkshakes, so we'll give a mulligan on that one if it's a DNF or a WD.
And after this week, I'll start I'll do the same as I did last week, and then do standings. Milkshake for first, pimento cheese sandwich for third.
I'm gonna go spicy. I'm gonna go Xander Schauffele for my first pick.
I wrote Scotty in for you too.
I like Charles. I'm not testing the baby magic. I'm just not doing it. We need to catch you. So I think picking Scotty would be an issue because I think they said his wife was due in a week or two last week. So
You're trying to catch me, but you're gifting me Scotty?
Yeah, trust me.
In a signature event?
Trust me. Xander's played really well at the RBC.
He was on Team Travis last week.
So I'm gonna go Xander. I think he played well last week. Finished the final round really strong, and I think he parlays it into a good finish this week in the RBC. So I'm gonna go Xander, my second pick.
Well, obviously I'm going Scotty. I don't need to tell you why I'm going Scotty. That's easy. And then I'm gonna go with the reigning champion. I'm gonna go Matt Fitzpatrick. And I can see Charles wanted him, so that was a good pick.
I'm gonna go with Sahith Theegala with my next pick.
I was thinking about Sahith in the 4th round, so
I think
hope he does it for you.
If you've looked at the last few years, Sahith has played extremely well at the RBC.
Yep.
And so I think again, I'm trying to go with people that have played well at the course. Hopefully that'll help me get some additional points.
I mean, it's a course that I think if you've played well in the past, you typically set yourself up for success. So with that, goodness, y'all got me off my game now.
Good job, Christian.
Yeah, you have to put a clock on me.
I also already have my fantasy picks, so I just have them on my phone right here. So I'm just going off what I've already done research on.
I've got my top 12, but now I'm just trying to pick around that. I'm gonna go Colin Morikawa.
I was hoping he might slide back to me.
And then after Colin, I am actually gonna go Brian Harman.
Ooh. Megacorp.
I'm gonna go Jordan Spieth.
Spieth.
He has played the RBC. I mean, look at the leaderboard. I checked the last 3 years. I think he's finished top 5 all 3 years. So I'm going Jordan Spieth with my next pick.
Is his wrist a factor? Because I know they mentioned that last week, and then he just was terrible at Augusta.
Well, if it is, then I want to
Well,
put a what's it called, a provisional pick if he
yeah,
doesn't play.
you'll get a provisional ball. Well, I was between Fitzpatrick and Tommy Fleetwood with my last pick. Tommy Fleetwood got around to me, so I'm going to go Tommy Fleetwood. The only player that has been on Team Travis 2 weeks in a row, so maybe we'll make him regular. My last pick could go Rory. It's going to take a lot in me to not go to Rory. Did Sam Burns have his kid? I don't know. I don't want to pick. I don't want to have two withdrawals with children.
Or you just go team baby.
Or I could go Ludwig. I'm gonna go Ludwig.
Oh my God, I was gonna pick him.
This is fun.
Dang it.
I'm taking everyone you guys want. This is
Dang,
great.
literally, look, I have my fantasy. Like, I don't know if you can see that. I have my
Well, you can
fantasy
throw it out because he's mine.
fantasy lineup, and I literally just went down the list of my fantasy lineup.
I got to figure out how to throw the 2 dots, whatever you call them, and everything on the graphic.
Dang.
Well, you can have Rory if you want him.
Hold on, I gotta pull up a leaderboard. Hold on.
Do you need me to name everyone who's been picked?
No, I just hold on. I was like, man, I'm about to get all the picks I wanted.
Not so fast. You jinxed yourself.
I did.
There's a sleeper I'm staring at right now.
Let me go.
He looks like Happy Gilmore's caddy, if that rings a bell.
It doesn't.
I think it rang a bell for Charles.
It's
Go with your boy Akshay.
No, I do like Akshay. I do. Let's go with.
Karen Bradley, Karen Johnson, also known as Zach.
I was thinking about Zach Johnson, but no, not Zach Johnson.
We didn't mention that, but that was a wild story last week.
Yeah. You know what? Let's go crazy. Shane Lowry.
Oh my gosh.
You have Rory with the last pick. Go for it.
No way I just stole Shane Lowry from
You just stole Shane Lowry from me.
Rory and Shane are playing together next week at the Zurich. I'll be following them.
Man. I mean, Rory would be the smart pick, but
Rory,
Man, we're
Max
just all
Homa,
we're all on the same wavelength, huh?
I guess so. We might be looking at the same sheet. You still got Wyndham Clark there.
I thought about that, but I don't think he's really played well.
By the way, Christian, Happy Gilmore's caddy is Will Zalatoris.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
He cut his hair, so that's why it doesn't stand out.
For whatever reason,
Yeah.
I was thinking of the guy
With the nail in his foot.
No, not that guy. There was some guy that looked like the caveman from Geico.
Is that the guy with the nail in his foot?
No, it's a different guy. Was this his first caddy? It was like a hobo off the street.
The kid. Oh, yeah. I know. Who was like taking stuff out and washing it in the ball. Yeah.
That's who I was thinking of. I was like, I don't know who they're talking about.
But yes, the kid.
Yeah.
All right, this guy that I'm about to pick. I'm making sure that he's in the this week. Excuse me.
You're going with some out of the box picks with your last ones. Tom Kim is still there.
My pick was going to be JT Poston.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's in it.
He's high risk, high reward. You know, of his 5 last times he's been in it, 3 top 10 finishes, but 2 missed cuts. And if there's not a missed cut, maybe it works out to his advantage. But I'll throw JT on the team this week.
All right. Very nice. All right. So here are the teams. We'll throw the graphic up just like we did last week. So my Alabama golfer is Justin Thomas. I have Scotty Scheffler. Fingers crossed his wife doesn't go into labor. You can hold out, Meredith. I believe in you. I'm going with the reigning champion, Matt Fitzpatrick. Tommy Fleetwood is another on Team Travis for another week. Ludwig Aberg, we got to learn how to pronounce his name.
Just me.
Yeah, it's going to be on the show every single week. So we're going to practice that in the mirror together next week, Christian. So Christian's team is Nick Dunlap for Alabama, Xander Schauffele coming off a great week at the Masters, Sahith Theegala, Jordan Spieth, and Shane Lowry. And then for Charles, he's got Lee Hodges, Patrick Cantley, Colin Morikawa, Brian Harmon, and JT Poston. Charles is trying to get away from eating a pimento cheese sandwich. I'm trying to stay at the top and keep drinking my milkshakes up here.
I'm just trying
what
to
would the
hold
South
on.
Carolina flavor be? Obviously,
Peach.
Fun fact: South Carolina produces more peaches than Georgia, but Georgia politicizes it. So I guess we'll go with the peach milkshake again for the graphic this week when I'm sitting in first with the most points.
Oh, well, okay. I'm just gonna let you know that the Irishman Shane Lowry is gonna do work and is gonna win the thing. So
if he wins, I'll put a Shamrock Shake next to his name for you.
yes. But yeah, that's our fantasy picks for this week, and super excited to get another episode in with you guys and be able to recap our first major of the year. Obviously, again, thank you to Robby Shelton for jumping on. Best of luck to him. I think it's next week that the Zurich Classic is, so best of luck with him. He's playing with Wilson Furr, another Alabama guy. So hopefully they can make a little bit of noise. And they'll be back-to-back years that an Alabama grad won the Zurich Classic if Robby and Wilson can pull it off with Davis Riley winning last year. So
we got a big week. Next week we'll be leading into the SEC championships for the Alabama golf team, and be fun kind of previewing that field with how good just golf is within the SEC as a whole. Look, everybody's chasing Vanderbilt and Auburn as far as the top teams, but Alabama's right there as a top 10 team as well. So excited to see what those guys do out in Sea Island, and we're excited to preview it and hopefully get some good information next week before they take the course.
Yeah, and be on the lookout. And next week we might have a special guest from that area that's very familiar with the course. We're still working out the details with that. And then the following week we might go. What is it called? Quint box? Is that 5 Quint box? Is that
something like that? We'll figure it out before then.
5 box. We'll go 5 box potentially, with maybe some guys that have played in the SEC championship. So. We're still working out those details, but stay tuned on our Twitter page. It's mole _ milk _ golf on Twitter. So be sure to follow that. Follow our Twitter accounts. It'll be linked in the description below. And do you guys have anything else? I think we're good to end it.
Roll Tide. It's going to be a great week. Hopefully I'm drinking. I didn't get a milkshake. I meant to get one. We're recording later, so it would have made more sense today, but I guess Christian and I both technically could have. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Great to have Robby on, hear some stories from him. Great one there. But yeah, really fun. Good to get our first interview under our belt, and only the beginning for us from here.
Yep. And we'll talk again soon, guys. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.